All right, welcome to the W2W review. I am the Oakland Knight, and joining me as always is the Raider Pirate. What's going on, Pirate?
What's going on, Raider Nation?
All right, Raider Nation, we are coming off a disappointing loss at home, which is key. You know, we lost a home game, and that's never good. And we're also going to change it up this week so we don't drag this out throughout the week. Today is going to be, we're going to cover both offense and defense in this show. So the first half of the show will be offense, the second half will be defense. And on that note, let's get right into it. So, Pirate, offensively, what is your thoughts? What you got for us today?
Well, take a look at the offense. I mean, again, we had 17 first downs. We had 17 passing first downs, 8 rushing first downs. We were 1 for 2 on fourth downs. We had a total of 71 plays. There's a lot of plays going into this game. 454 total yards for the team. We had 11 drives to Atlanta's 10 drives, so we had more drives than them. We had more total plays than them. We had more third downs than them. We had more passing first down, we had the same amount of rushing first downs as they did. We had one less passing first down. Threw for a total of 299 yards. I think it was just a little bit over 300, but statistically it was at 299 yards. 34 for 45. Derek Carr threw the ball 45 times. He's averaging right now 41 throws per game. 300 yards and 41 throws per game is the average, but only 6.5 yards per pass. Once again, was kept upright. We ran the ball for 155 yards on 25 attempts. That's about a 6.2 yard carry. And we were 3 for 3 in the red zone. So we scored when we were in the red zone. That was something that a lot of people were talking about. Oh, when they get into the red zone, the Raiders just aren't doing, they're not scoring or whatnot. But again, as a total offense, 9 penalties for 58 yards. I think the Cooper penalty is the one that really killed us. And, we had the ball for more than they did, 32 minutes and 45 seconds. So when you start looking at all of these things, we had the ball for longer than they did. We had more plays than they did. The one thing that stands out again is the third down percentage. 5 of 12 on third down. This is something that last week we had trouble with. It's something that in the preseason we had trouble with. And I think it's systemic of, throwing the ball short and hoping that guys pick up the first down by breaking tackles. But, like I said, offensively, there were a lot of good things that I saw in this game. Amari Cooper had a fantastic day, did some incredible things. And, Derek Carr, once again, looked good. The running game looked good. The offensive line pretty much did a yeoman's job out there. So all in all, I thought offensively we looked pretty good other than starting slow.
No, absolutely. We talk about it a lot on this show. Sometimes when we demand perfection, we're wishing way too high. There's no way to there's no such thing as perfect. There's always going to be something that we could pick apart, regardless of how good we look. And when you look at this offensive unit, we're able to run the ball the first 2 games. We're able to pass the ball the first 2 games. And statistically, the things that stick out are the third down conversions, and obviously our play calling. And I mentioned yesterday on the live show, when you break down the play calling, it's not so much, well, it is the play calling. There's no other way to say it, basically. But I believe it's the plays that are being called. We're sending some of our weapons, our big weapons, Cooper, Crabtree, Seth Roberts, we're sending him too far up the field, which is covered. I'm going to give credit to the Atlanta defense. They came in, they played that cover 3. They kept everything in front of them. They did really well of attacking the ball when Carr checked it down. My problem is that we're checking it down to Lee Smith and Clive Walford, and kudos to Clive Walford. He finally had a career day. He hit the century mark, caught a touchdown.
I think Lee Smith had a career day too.
Well, yeah, but you don't want Lee Smith really to have a career day, right? He's a blocking tight end, and when he's catching balls 2 yards up the field, he's not your breakaway kind of guy. So he's catching the ball on a check down 2 yards up the field, and he's getting tackled immediately. That's not the ideal check down. Your ideal check down should be to a wide receiver running a short route underneath, or your running back. I don't have so much of a problem you hitting Clive Walford. Clive Walford has a little bit more ability to get up the field, but Lee Smith does not. So, that's the problem I had with the play calling is the checkdowns were to our tight ends, and a lot of the times that checkdown ended up being Lee Smith. You're not going to be highly productive in a checkdown situation like that. I mean, Musgrave needs to call plays where we have one of these wide receivers running slants or settling in the middle, or most importantly to me, this is one of DeAndre Washington's specialties, is to be able to come out of the backfield in a situation like that. You hit a DeAndre Washington, even if you hit him 2 yards up the field, this guy's could potentially break one out or, get you the 8 yards you would rather see than just the 2-yard grab. But like I said, the Atlanta defense came out prepared. They were well ready for that. And again, the play calling is an issue, and it's more than it's the play calling. It's the routes that these receivers are running in these play calls that's allowing our checkdowns to go to Lee Smith for 2 yards. It's like, okay, it's bad enough. You see Carr throw the ball because he's in shotgun a lot. He's throwing the ball for dang near 8 yards, but it's a 2-yard reception, and he's getting tackled immediately because you're hitting a tight end. So, I mean, that, to me, it's not that big of a deal at this point, 2 games in, because that's easily corrected. Because you know darn well Tennessee Titans are going to play a cover 3, play us back, keep everything in front of us, and they're going to keep taking our wide receivers in the deep ball away. The only way we stop that is we make them pay for it underneath with our running backs and maybe get Seth Roberts or Cooper involved in some slants and some more shorter routes underneath. Your thoughts on that, Pirate?
No, I agree totally. I mean, I don't understand Michael Rivera, healthy scratch this week. This would have been a good time to bring Michael Rivera in and take advantage of some of those underneath routes. If you watch on our weekly show, Coach Ted was showing that the weakness of this team was the underneath routes, the very routes that Lee Smith was catching and that Clive Walford was catching. Those are the areas where this team and our team, because they're very similar teams, that's where they struggle. And you saw us give up a lot of plays in the middle of the field underneath because of our linebackers and the holes that are present. So once again, I don't know what is going on with Michael Rivera, but he's a healthy scratch for week number 2. He's got to be in the doghouse. This is another coaching decision I don't quite understand, but I'm not privy to the information, so I don't know why Dan Williams isn't in there, more than he is. I don't know why Michael Rivera isn't in there, particularly when he would have been such a better matchup, I think, against the underneath coverage than like we're talking about Lee Smith is. And I jokingly say career day. I think he had 2 catches, right? But that's 2 catches too much in any game plan, as far as I'm concerned. Unless you're at the goal line, that's 2 wasted footballs. In my opinion, because I don't think he's going to do very much with it. And correct. Like you said, if you watch Amari Cooper took that slant when he was pushed out of bounds, but he caught that ball and he kicked into another gear. So this is the type of guy that, again, I think that you can take advantage of him breaking a tackle, but you got to get the ball up the field. That's the only thing that frustrates me about this offense. They too often are throwing the ball horizontally to the backs instead of throwing the ball on the little wheel routes or throwing the ball on the circle routes where the back is getting out of the backfield and then 5-6 yards past the line of scrimmage, catching the ball, and then doing something from there. Once again, I hate to harp on Murray. I think he ran better. But again, at the end of the day, it seems awkward whenever he gets the ball. I don't watch the game. It really seems awkward how he catches the ball, how he turns to start running with the ball. Even when he's got a good head of steam going, it just seems a little awkward, a little indecisive. These 2 kids.
I agree. Very undecisive.
These 2 kids, I got to tell you right now, Jalen Richard and DeAndre Washington, these guys, in my opinion, they're dynamic, and they need more touches. I mean, like I said before, if you're going to come out going for the throat. That's what I want Bill Musgrave to do. I think Derek Carr has been handicapped by conservative play callers since his first year. Okay, this kid's a rookie. Let's throw a lot of checkdowns. Let's keep him upright. His brother got beat up. Let's protect this guy. Let's make sure the line calls are right. Let's do everything we can to get the ball out of this guy's hands. And that became a pattern going into a second year. Last year, I think it was, they opened it up a little bit more. But once again, there are a tremendous amount of checkdowns in this particular system. Derek Carr's never going to be a great quarterback in a system where he's throwing to 8 different receivers in a game, where Amari Cooper's only getting 3 or 4 targets and Michael Crabtree's only getting 40 yards. You know what I mean? There's a certain point when you got to say, this is our team. This is our Julio Jones. This is the guy that we're going to, and we're going to attack you. We're not going to just sort of take what the defense is giving us. We did that, and like Coach Ted said, that's what you have to do against this type of team. A lot of patience is required in that, and you got to have a defense that can come up with a stop, and we just didn't have that. So.
Yeah. So for me, it so much wasn't the play calling this week in a whole, I guess is what I want to say, as much it was the routes that were being ran in the play calls. So the checkdowns, okay, that's fine. I expected that. But at the end of the day, we need to get up the field. We need to get our playmakers the ball, not our blocking tight end the ball. So that was the big standout to me. And let's face it. I mean, we're picking on the play calling and stuff, but again, 2 weeks into this, we're averaging over 30 points a game. That is more than enough to win football games. At the end of the day, the problem with this football team right now is defense, and we're going to get in that in segment number 2. But just to touch on one more thing before we head out to break, something that you mentioned. You talked about Latavius Murray. Yes, very undecisive. You see it, okay? He's getting open. He's catching the ball. He's getting up the field, and he's getting positive plays. In a whole, I don't have a huge problem with Murray for that, but you do see the undecisiveness. And what I do see is 2 other backs, smaller backs, mind you, but they're explosive. They're just come off more dynamic. Yep. And I said yesterday on the live show, if it was up to me, and obviously I'm not getting paid, so my words mean nothing, Jalen Richard would be our primary back. He just seems to be the most decisive. He seems to be the most explosive, and he just seems to have this vision. And it's not just a vision; it's his explosiveness. After he sees it, he just hits it so hard. Makes something look so simple when there's nothing there, and he just explodes. Even if it's for 3 yards, just more of a dynamic look to a Jalen Richard than even a DeAndre Washington. I'm not taking anything from DeAndre Washington. I think he's been looking great too. And, and Murray's had his moments because I think he's being pushed by these guys. But again, something tells me that Richard, and you saw it yesterday, they played Richard a lot more. And I think that his role will increase once they start watching the tape a little bit more. All right, we're going to go ahead, Pirate.
Well, no, I was just going to say, you would think that all the things that you said would be true. You should be able to have a 300-yard passing game, a 100-yard running game. You should be able to put up 30 points, and you should be able to win games. But unfortunately, with this defense, we're not. We barely escaped out of New Orleans because of sort of the conservative approach until our back was against the wall, and we didn't get out against this one. So moving forward, if this defense doesn't get better, this offense has to get better. And really the only thing that they have to do is, again, play as if their backs were against the wall without actually being down. So that's my only point. I'm not down on the offense either.
Right.
Just the initial offense, if you look at it, that first quarter, generally speaking, is very, very vanilla in my opinion. And until we're down, Bill Musgrave doesn't become, the genius play caller that he does toward the end of games. So I just want to make that point.
No, absolutely, and it's a great point. So it's a lot to ask for. I mean, now we're asking this offense to be 40-plus points a game versus. Right. But hey, if that's what it takes, then hey, that's what it takes. That's what we got to shoot for.
That's what's going to have to take. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So that's going to wrap up segment 1. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to dive into this fun thing called defense. All right, guys, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
MMM Carpets is celebrating the holidays with a huge inventory clearance sale. We have the best prices and guaranteed installation. Why would you buy anywhere else? Whether you're looking for laminate, vinyl, carpet, tile, or wood, we have it all. Save up to 50% on selected items. Room size rugs, only $69. Visit MMM Carpets at one of our 6 Bay Area locations or call us at 1-800-355-4MMM.
All right, welcome back to the W2W Review. I'm the Oaklandite, joined with the Raider Pirate, and now we're going to get into the defensive side of things. And it's messy, guys, so bear with us as we try to dissect this horrible defense. 2 weeks of horrible defense. In my opinion, we could be sitting here talking about how we should be 2-0, but in reality, we should be talking about how we're 0-2. Pirate, what you got for us today?
Yeah, so again, we gave up a lot of first downs. We gave up 18 passing first downs. So the secondary, again, a big-time problem. We gave up 8 rushing first downs. They were 5 of 10 on third downs, so they weren't a lot better than us, but they were certainly better than us at right around 50% completion. So that means that half the time you're gonna stay on the field as opposed to being taken off the field. That's something that we really have got to tighten up in terms of 3 and outs. 528 yards of total offense. Another 500. It's 1,000 yards that this team has given. Over 1,000 yards this team has given up. Historically, the worst since the New York Yankees, and that's pretty bad.
Right.
You're looking at 8.2 yards, 389 yards passing. They gave up again. Another big passing day. And we said, Matt Ryan's not Drew Brees. Well, Matt Ryan pretty much was Drew Brees. He was able to score touchdowns and throw for lots and lots and lots of yardage. We gave up 139 yards rushing. So now we've gone, like we said yesterday, you can check off that box of giving up over 100-yard rusher. 4.8 yards per carry, right? We gave up 4.8 yards per carry, run the ball twice, get a first down. So basically, we were pretty good in terms of the red zone defense, including Amerson's incredible takeaway. That guy's balling. He's the only guy that's out there balling. But once again, we couldn't capitalize really and really make that stick. So, when I look at this, if combined with the turnover, can you imagine, and this is going to go a little bit back toward the offense, but can you imagine if we were turning over the ball, what a fiasco this would be if we had a fumble or two?
It would be horrendous.
If we had
my God.
We did have the turnover on downs, but and that of course obviously led to some points. But I'm just saying, imagine if we were throwing interceptions or fumbling the ball on our own 20. I mean, it would just be a barnstorm. So defensively, I don't know. I mean, like I said, you cannot have this type of a defense without there being some type of internal turmoil. And if it's not there now, it's certainly, I should say, if it hasn't been there up until now, it is certainly there now.
No, absolutely. And this is what I was concerned about. And I listened to Jack Del Rio, who put it on himself, and there's been a report that he called that last series probably a little too late. I think this, and you're the one who brought it up, that there's turmoil between. And maybe turmoil is a strong word, but there was definitely a philosophy problem and a scheme problem between Jack Del Rio and Ken Norton Jr. And I think now you're going to see Jack, because Jack at this point is the one who's probably the most embarrassed. This guy has historically been a part of some great defenses from his time with the Ravens, his time with the Saints even, the time he had with John Fox. His Jaguars teams were known for good defense. And now he's got a defense that historically is the worst into the start of the season. That Jack Del Rio is going to draw the line now, which got me thinking last night when I was thinking about Ken Norton. We all been really hyped about Ken Norton, his energy and all that. Okay, that part's great, but if you could be as energetic as you can be, and if you're not putting together the right plan and getting these guys to perform, because the playmakers, in my opinion, are there, even with the 6 new defenders that we have, you're playing them wrong. Shout out to Chino TV, who directed me to a YouTuber now, Go check him out. His name's Angry Bird, who was talking about how Sean Smith is, using the bail technique. They're playing him too close to the line of scrimmage. That's not what we brought him here for. He should be strictly a zone-type corner, keep things in front of him. He doesn't have the feet and the speed to keep up with these wide receivers. You're putting him in a bad situation. But my point is okay, why did Pete Carroll let a guy like Ken Norton go to the Raiders to be a defensive coordinator when you lost two of your defensive coaches? Ken Norton, you would think, would have been the next man up. You would have offered him the defensive coordinator job, but you didn't. And this is a guy that's been with you his whole career under you. Maybe he knew that Ken Norton wasn't ready. Maybe Ken Norton understands the system but doesn't know how to teach the system. Maybe the linebackers, but our linebackers are weak right now too. So it's time for Jack to put his stamp on this and get Ken Norton just to understand his scheme and use his ability to coach players and motivate players with inside Jack's scheme. I think that's what we need to do moving forward, because like I've said yesterday, Bill Musgrave gets a lot of heat from the Raider Nation. He has for the last 2 years, and we could give him a lot of heat for some of the plays called yesterday. But at the end of the day, you're averaging over 30 points a game and your defense is getting scorched. It's time to jump on the bandwagon of getting Ken Norton a little bit of hate and demanding. And it's not so much just Ken Norton, right? I mean, we got to demand from Jack, this guy's ruining you too. So it's time for you to take over this defense, fix it, and get it going. I mean, it's not going to turn around overnight, but there's a lot you could do from a base defense, dummy it down, go for more of a base defense look, and kind of work your way up from there. We've got a 3-game road stint coming up. It's not going to be easy, and we have to find a way to fix this ship. Pirate?
Yeah, and I've talked about it before. I mean, I think you can only be confused if you have too many different voices that are in the mix. Anytime you've got a defensive coordinator who's a head coach or an offensive coordinator who's a head coach, their offensive coordinator probably doesn't have a lot of rope to hang himself with, right? Because the head coach is going to get in there and tell him what to do and what not to do. If you look at the press conference with Bruce Irvin,
correct,
and he said we weren't communicating, we didn't know what we were doing out there, we were making the wrong plays, we weren't in sync. That can only come from one thing. That can only come from learning multiple or trying to learn multiple defenses and multiple different types of game plans. So we saw last year, we saw Ken Norton brought over, and like you said, there was a reason why Seattle didn't do everything they could to make him their defensive coordinator. Now, we don't know if that's play calling, adjustments, whatever. Maybe the speed of the game is too fast. He doesn't think fast enough. He can't think outside the box and think forward enough. We don't know any of those things at this point. But what we do know is that he was brought in, and they tried to run Seattle's defense. We didn't have the personnel to run it effectively, primarily because of our corners and the fact that we weren't getting any pass rush, which is the same thing that's happening right now. We were beaten early on, and Jack Del Rio had to take the reins of that defense and had to adjust it. Now, during the offseason, he goes out and he gets personnel that are very reminiscent of what you would try to be running in Seattle. When Bruce Irvin comes over, he says, we're using the same terminology, we're running the same types of plays as we were using in Seattle. So we have a pretty good idea that they went into this offseason saying, look, maybe it was the personnel. So let's try this one more time with Ken Norton Jr. But just so that we're not caught off guard, let's also give these guys a little bit of the stuff that we were running from last year. Now you're trying to teach two sort of opposing philosophies, and they may not necessarily be opposing so much as they are different, right? Let's try to do this with this personnel. Let's run these packages. Let's do this. Let's do that. And just in case, let's have a contingency plan if we have to take over and switch our defense to something different. I think they saw in the preseason that there were problems. I think they've seen in these first 2 games that there are problems. And now what's happening is the players are in this sort of transition. You combine that with the fact that you've got a bunch of new players. And so once again, we're talking about potentially, again, this is all hallucinations because we're not there with that coaching staff. They may be totally on the same page. These are just our opinions. Watching, you know that you cannot be this bad unless the entire defense is confused.
Correct.
And how can the entire defense be confused if the head coach and the defensive coordinator are on the same page, running the same simple system, and yet they just can't get the job done? I doubt very much that it's 100% personnel. And if it is 100% personnel, you got to get Carl Joseph on that field. You got to get Dan Williams back in there. You got to go back, maybe bring in T.J. Carey or DJ Hayden, who you played with last year. You got to try to recapture some of that chemistry that you had toward the end of the season, or you're going to lose this team because it's young and it's new. You're going to lose these guys before you ever get a chance to start firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I can't remember the caller who called into the live show yesterday and brought up the fact that there's 6 new players on defense, and we have to understand that. And I do, but let's look at some of those new players, right? Reggie Nelson to be 1, Bruce Irvin number 2. I'm trying to think of who else, and the rest of them are pretty much rookies, right? Those are our 2 key new additions to this defense. These guys should be able to adapt to anything. I mean, they're veterans, and we also have a soreness in middle linebacker. I try to give Ben Heaney the benefit of the doubt. He's around the ball, or he has a knack to be around the ball and some great speed, but he's undersized. And I know a lot of people have been kind of harping on Malcolm Smith. Now, Malcolm Smith is calling the plays. And I believe you're seeing Malcolm Smith being out of position more because he's having to make up for the lack of Ben Heaney's contributions. I'm almost to the point where I think Ben Heaney would be a better weak side linebacker and maybe Malcolm in the middle. He's calling the plays anyway. He's more experienced than Ben Heaney. And I think that he would understand the gaps and do a better job of getting off blocks. And that's something that we haven't talked about. We keep screaming for Corey James, but Corey James as a rookie may not be ready for that permanent type role just yet. We're only 2 weeks into this. So, you got Bruce Irvin on the outside. Ben Heaney does have talent, guys. I mean, he's just not a middle linebacker, right? So we're not utilizing the talent correctly. You got Ben Heaney maybe out of position. You're using Sean Smith the wrong way. Even though I don't expect us to be perfect, I expect some changes to be made this week and definitely a better performance from the defense. And look, we're not even asking these guys to be shut down. We're not even asking them to be average. They could be sub-average as long as they could stop the plays enough to where it gives our opportunity to our offense, especially late in games, because our offense has proven their dynamic. And even if it's in the third or fourth quarter, we're going to score on you. So the defense just need to get them more stops and more opportunities to build a lead, and then go from there. Your final thoughts, Pirate?
Yeah, and it's like we're saying, I don't think we're down on this football team. I don't think we're saying
Not at
heads
all.
need to roll and the season's over or anything like that. I mean, it's just when you watch something, when you watch a team, I think that has so much talent and so much potential, but you've got so many different head scratchers. Why is this guy not playing? How come he's on the bench? How come why? Obviously, they have to be coaching decisions. These guys, some of them I'm sure are attitude related. Some of them are talent related. But in my opinion, like you said, Reggie Nelson getting up there may not have the legs required anymore to be trying to help out a Sean Smith. I mean, that's not a good combination. A guy that's lost his deep speed and another guy that's barely probably hanging on to what he can hang on to would make so much more sense to have somebody back there with speed that could, play that single high. But like you said, I think Malcolm in the middle would be a better choice because it's so much easier to be able to call those plays from the middle of the field as opposed to calling it from one side or the other. So that's why, generally you have a safety like Charles Woodson or you have your middle linebacker who's got the green dot because they can see the entire field, how everything's lining up. So, but no, I mean, you know what? We're still very high on this team, still have high expectations. We know that Jack Del Rio has done some great stuff coaching-wise, and we're just hoping that he does another great coaching maneuver, changes some personnel, flips up the scheme a little bit to something more reminiscent of what we had at the end of last year. And this offense could start a little bit faster. And then we're right back into that talk of, going to the playoffs.
Right. And it's still early on. We're only 2 games in, guys. I mean, we just really honestly need to win 1 out of the next 2 to keep pace of what we need to be. We can't go 500 every quarter, but I mean, to start the season in the first quarter to go 500 would be a great way to start with this young team. And they are playing. They're close. They're in games. They're not getting blown out as a whole. Defensively, yeah, but there's room to grow and there's time to grow. So they just need to fix it and fix it now. And I think there's just some really big decisions that need to be happening defensively to get us to that point. Once again, this offense has proven to be dynamic. It's the defense that just needs to find a way to create more stops, especially on third down. And we're in business. You'd be surprised at how quickly this can turn around. Defensive wins championships, but we've seen the St. Louis Rams in '99 really dominate on the offensive side of the ball. And that's what really got them to where they were at. It wasn't so much their defense. Their defense didn't have to be prolific, and we're not expecting at this point for this defense to turn around and be that prolific. We just need them to make some really good stops and continue to give this offense the opportunity that it could shine even more than it is now. And we're asking a lot from the offense, but that's the team concept, right? You got to pick someone up when they're down. So that's going to wrap up the show for the day. We'll be back tomorrow. We don't know exactly what we're talking about yet. We're changing up the scheme a little bit. That's why we talked a little offense and defense today, because we don't want to drag this game too far into the week. We know it gets a little bit monotonous. So we will definitely be talking about some of the game tomorrow and maybe looking ahead at the Tennessee Titans and maybe what we can expect moving forward, especially from this defense. All right, this has been brought to you by the Will to Win broadcast. This is the W2W Review. Follow us at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at the Will to Win. Also, email us your questions and concerns at the W2W@gmail.com. So for the Raider Pirate, I'm the Oakland Knight. Until tomorrow, you stay Raider strong.
Thank you.